All right, 8th graders, today's goal is to figure out if two solids are similar. First of all, similar in math today means that we have something that has the same size, same shape, except one is bigger or smaller, like it's dilated or it's reduced, basically. So I have three different solids here on the board. They're all cylinders. So what you can see here is this one has a 5 and a 3, a 7.5, a 5, a 6, and a 4. I labeled them A, B, C, kind of out of order, but they're still okay. As far as this goes, we want to know if it's proportional, meaning if I were to enlarge it or if I shrink it, would they be the same or would they not be the same? Are they similar? That's the goal here. In order to do this, we have to use the different measurements we have. So we have a height and we have a radius for all three. Let's start with just comparing two, and then we'll compare the other two, and we'll come back and see. Let's just start with A and B because they're on top. So the first thing we can do is we can check out the height. All right, so let's do this. Let's do height of A and the height of B. So the height of A is 4 high, and the height of B is 3. So that's one of the measurements. So we know that measurement we can compare back and forth. The other thing that we know is the radius. So let's check out the radius. So the radius of A and the radius of B. We're going to set that up as a fraction as well. So the radius of A is 6, and the radius of B is 5. Now, if I were to figure out if these were the same or not, we want to use a system of either common denominators, or we could divide. We could do a whole bunch of different things. In this case, I'm just going to use common denominators because it seems to be pretty easy with 5 and 3. So 5 and 3, the first place they would match up would be 15. So I'm just going to make them so they're both common out of 15. Now, the secret here is if the top number is the same, they're similar. If the top number is different, they're not. So if I go 5 times 3 is 15, 6 times 3 would be 18. Okay. 5 times 3 would be that, 5 times 4 would be 20. Are the top numbers the same? No. So they are not similar. A and B, not similar to each other. Let's try out a couple different ones, and let's try a different one. Let's go A and C, how about? So I already know A. Let's put C in there instead. So I'm going to go like this, get rid of that. So let's reset this up. We got height of C, radius of C. Okay. So A, we already said, has 6 for radius, 4 for height. C, we have 7.5 for our radius and 5 for our height. Now, this is a little bit trickier. So this is a case where a calculator might be better off if we use it, but we don't necessarily have to. We can just go from there and calculate it. If I were to do this one, I would try to figure out my division, and I would go 4 divided by 5, and I would go 6 divided by 7.5. And if I do that, these both actually would come down to 4/5 if I calculate them. So these two would be the same. They are similar. So A and C, these two, would be similar, meaning if I enlarged it by a little bit, it would be the same, or if I shrunk it by a little bit, it'd be the same. Let's try a little bit different version. Sometimes they'll give you one where you have to find what's called the slant height. So let me set this one up for you quick, and we'll do our last example here. It's a pretty quick take. So sometimes they will give us a cone. We did cones the other day, which the volume of a cone is 1/3 the base times height. So I'm going to draw 2 cones, and my cones sometimes look funky, so just bear with me. So my first cone is going to be this guy, and my second cone is going to be right here. Okay, so let's get some labels here. I'm using the sheet so I can get my correct numbers. So if I go right here, I got 5 right there. And I'm going to say the slant height, not the height, but the slant height is 13 yards right here. So yards and yards. Now over here, this one, the bigger one, I'm going to make that 7 yards. And my slant height here is going to be missing. I don't know. My length, my slant height. I don't know what it is. So now we're going to set it up kind of the same way. So we're going to take what we know, we're going to put it together. So let's start with this first one over here. I have 13 and I have L. The 13 and the L match up on the figure in the same corresponding place, but we don't know what they are. So I'm going to set it up like this. I'm going to go 13 over L. So I'm going to use this one and that one. Let's call this cone X, just for fun, and we'll call this cone Y. So cone X is always going to be on top. Cone Y is always going to be on the bottom, and we'll do it like this. All right, now the next thing we know is we have our radius for both. So my radius for x, remember x is on top, is 5. So I'm going to go like this. My radius for y is 7. So I'm going to put 7 down here. So I end up with this setup. Now the best way to do this that I found is to use cross products right here. You can do it other ways. You can, again, try to comment it and do whatever you need to do. But the cross products here is going to be an easiest way to do it, I think. So if I go 5 times L, my missing L, my length, I guess. So if I go 5L, like that, that's going to equal 13 times 7. Some of you out there already know 13 times 7. If you don't know it, you can set it up on your scratch paper, use a calculator, set it up like this. I got 91. Okay, so 5L equals 91. A little bit of algebra here. If I were to get this L out by itself, I need the inverse operation of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. L is going to equal 91/5. And you're like, yay, that's great. But that does not very helpful for an answer. So if I calculate that, I divide it. I could use a calculator. I could use scratch paper. I will end up with 91 divided by 5 is 18.2 yards. What does that tell me? That tells me that this slant length is 18.2 yards. These are a little bit different than we did before. Again, we have some formulas. We have some things we've got to use a little bit. Remember, your volume is base times height. Your volume of a cone is 1/3 base times height. And as you start to go through these, now you're getting a little more complex where you're having to find missing numbers. I'll give you a couple of examples on big ideas. So you can go through and try a couple, and then you should be good to go. Thank you.